What if one final wish could bring hope to a dying child, touch the heart of a global icon, and inspire millions around the world? Sophie, a 10-year-old girl battling a merciless illness, had just one dream left: to meet her hero, Keanu Reeves. What followed was nothing short of breathtaking. Keanu's response brought tears to her family, captured the world's attention, and turned her final days into a legacy of love and compassion. Stay with us as we reveal this unforgettable story of courage and kindness. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest stories. Now, let's get started. Keanu Reeves isn't just a Hollywood legend, he's an enigma in an industry known for excess. While many stars flaunt their wealth with designer clothes and luxury lifestyles, Keanu has always chosen a simpler path. He's been spotted riding public buses in Silver Bay, wearing worn-out boots and carrying an old backpack. A viral video even captured him giving up his seat to a woman on a crowded subway in Willow Heights. A small moment, yet it spoke volumes about his character. Despite decades in the spotlight, Keanu remains remarkably grounded. He doesn't own sprawling mansions or throw extravagant parties. Instead, he's known for quietly embracing a life of humility and kindness. His fans admire him not just for his iconic roles in films like The Matrix and John Wick, but for the way he treats everyone with respect, whether it's a co-star, a crew member, or a complete stranger. Keanu's ability to stay relatable in a world of fame and fortune is what sets him apart. He's not just a star. He's someone who reminds us that greatness isn't measured by what you own, but by how you live and how you treat others. Keanu Reeves has earned a rare kind of admiration that transcends his roles on screen. To his fans, he's not just a movie star. He's a symbol of humility and genuine kindness. What sets Keanu apart is how he treats people, no matter who they are. Fans often share stories of chance encounters that reveal his extraordinary ability to make everyone feel important. One story recounts a young woman who nervously approached him at a bookshop in Silver Bay, hoping for a quick selfie. Instead, Keanu spent several minutes talking to her about her favorite books and what inspired her love of reading. "It felt like he cared about what I had to say," she later shared online. Another famous incident happened in Willow Heights, where Keanu missed his scheduled ride just to help a lost tourist find her way, staying with her until she was safe. These stories may seem small, but they hold immense power. In an industry where stars are often distant, Keanu's willingness to connect is deeply refreshing. After a film premiere, he's known to stay behind for hours, taking photos, listening to fans, and thanking them personally. For Sophie, Keanu wasn't just a star on the big screen. His ability to inspire hope through small, meaningful actions gave her strength in her darkest moments. It's this blend of stardom and sincerity that makes Keanu Reeves a true hero, not just to Sophie, but to millions around the world. Keanu Reeves's generosity is the kind of quiet, genuine kindness that often goes unnoticed, until someone shares their story. One such story took place during the filming of The Matrix. To thank his stunt team for their hard work, Keanu gifted each member a brand new Iron Stallion motorcycle. These weren't just any motorcycles. They were customized to match each team member's personality, a gesture that showed his thoughtfulness and appreciation for their contributions. But Keanu's kindness doesn't stop at grand gestures. On the set of another film, the production faced financial difficulties, leaving crew members struggling to make ends meet. Rather than complain or demand special treatment, Keanu personally contributed part of his salary to cover the costs, ensuring everyone could continue working without added stress. These stories, though incredible, are just the tip of the iceberg. Keanu often goes out of his way to acknowledge the hard work of those behind the scenes, signing personal thank you notes, or quietly funding small projects to support the crew. His actions remind us that true generosity isn't about public recognition. It's about making people feel valued and respected. For Sophie, who idolized Keanu for his kindness, these stories weren't just inspiring, they were a beacon of hope. To her, Keanu wasn't just an actor, he was proof that kindness could change lives, even in the smallest moments. Keanu Reeves's generosity doesn't just shine in public. It thrives in the quiet moments where no cameras are watching. His most profound acts of kindness are those no one ever hears about unless the recipients themselves share the story. This humility sets Keanu apart, proving that for him, kindness is not a performance but a way of life. Years ago, Keanu established a private foundation to support cancer research and children's hospitals. What's remarkable is that he refused to attach his name to it. "It's not about me," he once said in an interview. The foundation has quietly funneled millions of dollars into helping families battling life-threatening illnesses, particularly those with children. This dedication stems from a deeply personal place. Keanu's sister, Kim Reeves, survived leukemia after years of grueling treatment. But Keanu's kindness extends beyond financial contributions. On several occasions, he's visited children's hospitals unannounced, spending hours sitting with young patients. In one story shared by a nurse, Keanu brought gifts for every child in the ward and spent the entire afternoon chatting, laughing, and reading stories to them. "He wasn't there to be a celebrity," the nurse recalled. "He was just there to make those kids smile." One of the most touching stories involves Ethan, a 6-year-old boy diagnosed with a rare and aggressive cancer. Ethan's family was drowning in medical bills and had no idea how to keep going. Keanu quietly paid off the debt, ensuring the family could focus on their son. When asked about it later, Keanu dismissed the praise, saying, "Helping is what we're here to do." These stories are just a glimpse into Keanu's world of quiet philanthropy. Beyond hospitals, he's been known to help strangers anonymously, funding educational programs, medical treatments, and even providing support to small businesses in crisis. A bookstore owner in Silver Bay shared how Keanu bought out their entire inventory during a tough month, then donated the books to local schools. For Sophie, hearing these stories brought her endless hope. It wasn't just Keanu's movies or fame that inspired her. It was knowing that her hero genuinely cared about making the world a better place. His quiet actions resonated deeply, teaching Sophie that even the smallest gestures could bring light to others. Keanu's philosophy is simple yet profound. Generosity isn't about recognition. It's about healing, uplifting, and offering love when it's needed most. For those who've been touched by his kindness, Keanu is more than a star. He's a lifeline, a beacon of hope in their darkest days. Sophie was just 10 years old, but her courage surpassed her years. Born and raised in Willow Heights, a small, close-knit community, Sophie had always been a bright and cheerful child who loved playing outdoors, reading fantasy books, and watching movies with her family. But life took a devastating turn when she was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. For Sophie and her family, the diagnosis was like a storm cloud that refused to lift. The once lively girl was now confined to a hospital room, her world reduced to the sterile walls of the pediatric oncology ward. Despite the endless rounds of chemotherapy and the toll it took on her small body, Sophie's spirit remained resilient. She found solace in her favorite films, especially The Matrix and John Wick, both of which featured her idol, Keanu Reeves. In those movies, Sophie saw more than action and adventure. She saw a reflection of her own battle. Just like Neo fighting impossible odds in The Matrix, Sophie clung to the hope that she, too, could overcome her illness. Keanu's characters were strong, courageous, and relentless, qualities she aspired to embody. For her family, watching Sophie light up whenever Keanu appeared on screen was a rare moment of joy in an otherwise grim reality. Her parents, Emma and James, worked tirelessly to support her treatment, even as the mounting medical bills placed an unimaginable strain on their finances. They often wondered how much more they could endure, but Sophie's determination kept them going. What made Sophie's story even more heartbreaking was the realization that her time was running out. Her doctors had exhausted every treatment option, and all they could do now was make her comfortable. Yet even in the face of such devastating news, Sophie remained hopeful, holding on to a dream that seemed impossible, meeting Keanu Reeves, the man who had given her strength through his characters. This dream wasn't just a wish. It was Sophie's way of finding meaning and joy in her final days. Her family knew they had to try, no matter how slim the chances, to make it happen. And so, with hope in their hearts, they reached out to the one man who could bring Sophie's world back to life. Emma and James had always gone to extraordinary lengths for Sophie. From endless doctor visits to working extra shifts just to afford her treatments, their lives revolved around keeping her as healthy and happy as possible. But now, the battle was changing. Sophie's condition was worsening, and the focus had shifted, not on finding a cure, but on giving her one last moment of pure joy. It was Emma who first suggested reaching out to Keanu Reeves. "He's always been her hero," she said one evening, her voice shaking with uncertainty. "If we could just make this happen, even once." The idea felt impossible. How does a small family from Willow Heights connect with a global superstar? But the alternative, doing nothing, was unthinkable. Determined to try, Emma and James launched a desperate effort. James began searching online for any way to contact Keanu's team, sending countless emails to his agency in Silver Bay and posting heartfelt messages on social media. Emma turned to the community, rallying their neighbors, friends, and even strangers to help spread Sophie's story. The response was overwhelming. Posts featuring Sophie's brave battle and her dream of meeting Keanu were shared thousands of times. Local news stations picked up the story, and soon the hashtag Sophie meets Keanu was trending in Willow Heights. Strangers from all over sent messages of support, some offering resources, others simply sharing kind words. The turning point came when a local journalist decided to write about Sophie's wish. The article highlighted Sophie's courage, her admiration for Keanu Reeves, and her family's tireless effort to make this dream come true. It gained traction faster than anyone could have anticipated, quickly being shared across social media platforms and eventually catching the attention of larger news outlets. Then came the phone call that changed everything. One afternoon, Emma answered an unfamiliar number. "This is the team representing Mr. Keanu Reeves," the voice on the other end said. Emma froze, her breath catching in her throat. "He's heard Sophie's story and would like to meet her." Tears streamed down Emma's face as she relayed the news to James. Together, they rushed to Sophie's bedside to tell her. "Keanu's coming to see you, sweetheart," Emma whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Sophie's eyes widened, and for the first time in weeks she smiled, truly smiled. "Really?" she asked, barely believing the words. "Yes, really," James said, kneeling by her bed. "He's coming just for you." The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and hope. The hospital staff worked to make Sophie's room as welcoming as possible, while her family held on to the joy of knowing that Sophie's dream was about to come true. For Sophie, this wasn't just a meeting, it was the light in the darkness, a moment to hold on to no matter what came next. As word of Keanu's response spread, the support from the community grew even stronger. More people reached out to Sophie's family, offering meals, emotional support, and even small donations to ease their burden. What had started as a dream had become a movement of compassion, uniting people far beyond Willow Heights. The air in Sophie's hospital room was heavy with unspoken emotion. Machines beeped softly in the background, monitoring her fragile body, while her family gathered around her bed. Emma sat beside Sophie, holding her hand tightly, as James stood near the window, his eyes clouded with worry. Though Sophie's condition had worsened, her spirits seemed lighter than they had been in weeks. She couldn't stop smiling as she counted down the hours until her meeting with Keanu Reeves. "Do you think he'll tell me stories about the Matrix?" Sophie asked, her voice soft but filled with excitement. Emma brushed a strand of hair from Sophie's face. "I'm sure he will, sweetheart," she said, fighting back tears. It had been so long since Sophie had looked this hopeful, and Emma couldn't help but feel a mixture of joy and heartbreak. The nurses and doctors at Willow Heights Children's Hospital were just as excited. They had watched Sophie's journey from the beginning and knew how much this visit meant to her. "We're making this room as special as we can," one nurse said, hanging balloons and posters from Sophie's favorite movies. James, ever the planner, made sure every detail was perfect. He coordinated with hospital staff to ensure that Keanu's arrival would be smooth and private, shielding Sophie from unnecessary stress. It was a small but meaningful way to contribute to his daughter's happiness. Yet, amidst the preparations, there was an unshakable sense of fragility in the room. Sophie's health was declining rapidly, and everyone knew this meeting might be her last truly joyful moment. The weight of that reality hung in the air, unspoken but deeply felt. As the hours passed, visitors from the community began stopping by to offer their support. Some brought flowers, while others simply offered a kind word or a comforting hug. The outpouring of love reminded the family that they weren't alone in this journey. Emma took a moment to step out of the room, needing a brief escape from the intensity of her emotions. Standing in the hallway, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This was all for Sophie, she reminded herself, a moment of light in the midst of so much darkness. Back in the room, Sophie's siblings, Mia and Caleb, sat beside her, talking about the questions they hoped she'd ask Keanu. "You should ask him how he does all those stunts," Caleb suggested, making Sophie giggle. Mia chimed in. "And don't forget to ask if Neo is his favorite character." The laughter that filled the room was a welcome contrast to the somber atmosphere of the past weeks. For a moment, it felt as though time had paused, allowing the family to hold on to the happiness they had been longing for. As the clock ticked closer to Keanu's arrival, the tension in the room shifted. Anticipation replaced sadness, and the family clung to the hope that this day would be everything Sophie had dreamed of. The atmosphere in Sophie's hospital room shifted instantly when a quiet knock echoed through the door. Emma stood up, her heart pounding, as a nurse gently pushed the door open. And there he was, Keanu Reeves, stepping inside with a warm smile and an unmistakable presence that seemed to fill the entire room. Sophie's eyes widened, her face lighting up with pure amazement. "Is it really you?" she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Keanu knelt beside her bed, gently taking her hand. "It's me, Sophie," he said softly. "I've been waiting to meet you." The room fell silent for a moment, the weight of the moment sinking in. Keanu's calm, genuine demeanor put everyone at ease. He didn't act like a Hollywood star. He acted like a friend visiting someone he cared deeply about. "I hear you're a fan of The Matrix and John Wick," he began, his voice warm and steady. "You'll have to tell me which one is your favorite." Sophie giggled, the sound breaking through the tension like sunshine on a cloudy day. "Both!" she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Keanu laughed softly, a sound that seemed to brighten the entire room. "Good answer," he replied. Emma and James stood nearby, their emotions overwhelming. To see Sophie so happy, even if just for a moment, was everything they had hoped for. The nurses and hospital staff, gathered quietly near the door, watched in awe. It wasn't just about a celebrity visit. It was about a connection that transcended fame, offering a sense of comfort and humanity in the most trying times. As Keanu continued talking to Sophie, asking her about her favorite scenes and sharing stories from the sets of his movies, the room was filled with something it hadn't seen in a long time: hope. Sophie could hardly believe it. Her hero was sitting right beside her, talking to her as if they'd known each other forever. Keanu leaned in slightly, his attention fully on Sophie, making her feel like the most important person in the world. "So," he asked with a playful grin, "did you ever try dodging bullets like Neo?" Sophie giggled, her cheeks flushing with excitement. "No, but I tried running up walls once," she admitted, her laughter filling the room. Keanu chuckled. "That's pretty impressive. I had to train for months just to look like I could do it. You're already ahead of me." The two continued talking, Sophie asking question after question about her favorite scenes from The Matrix and John Wick. Keanu answered each one with warmth and humor, sharing behind-the-scenes stories that had everyone in the room smiling. He even acted out a small fight sequence with exaggerated moves, earning a round of applause from Sophie and her siblings. At one point, Sophie grew quiet, her energy fading slightly. Keanu noticed immediately, his expression softening. "You okay, Sophie?" he asked gently. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. I wish I could do all the cool things you do." Keanu's smile was tender as he reached for her hand. "You already do something cooler," he said. "You inspire people. You inspire me." The room fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Sophie's eyes sparkled with tears, but she smiled, a moment of pure connection between her and her hero. For the next hour, Keanu stayed by Sophie's side, telling her stories and answering her every question. He brought gifts he'd prepared especially for her, a signed Matrix poster, a small replica of Neo's sunglasses, and a handwritten letter encouraging her to keep being brave. The family watched in awe, overwhelmed by the joy and light Keanu brought into the room. James leaned toward Emma, whispering, "This is more than we ever hoped for." Emma wiped away a tear, nodding. "She'll remember this forever," she replied softly. As the visit neared its end, Keanu leaned close to Sophie one last time. "Promise me something," he said. "Keep being strong, and know that you've made a difference in my life." Sophie's voice trembled as she answered, "I promise." The room grew quieter as Sophie's energy began to wane. Keanu noticed immediately and leaned closer, his voice soft but steady. "Hey, Sophie," he said gently. "Do you know how brave you are?" Sophie looked at him with tired eyes, her small hand resting in his. "I'm not brave," she whispered. "I'm just scared." Keanu squeezed her hand, his gaze filled with understanding. "Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared," he said. "It means you keep going, even when it's hard. And that's exactly what you've done." Sophie's lips trembled as she gave him a small smile. "You really think so?" "I know so," Keanu replied. "You've faced things most people couldn't even imagine, and you've done it with so much strength. You're a hero in my book." The words hung in the air, a profound moment shared between them. Sophie's family watched from the corner of the room, their emotions overwhelming. Emma wiped away tears, while James held her close, his own face etched with gratitude. Keanu then reached into his bag and pulled out a small box. "I brought something special for you," he said, opening it to reveal a delicate silver bracelet with the words, "Stay strong," engraved on it. He gently fastened it around Sophie's wrist. "Whenever you feel scared, just look at this and remember how strong you are." Sophie stared at the bracelet, her eyes welling up. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu smiled warmly. "No, thank you, Sophie. You've reminded me what real strength looks like." The moment was both heartbreaking and beautiful, a quiet exchange that spoke volumes. Sophie's siblings, Mia and Caleb, sat close, their own tears falling as they held their sister's hand. The room, filled with emotion, seemed to pause in time. Even the hospital staff stood silently, witnessing a connection so genuine it brought tears to their eyes. Keanu stayed by Sophie's side, sharing stories and moments of laughter, but there was an unspoken understanding that time was precious. As the clock neared the end of his visit, Keanu leaned in one last time. "You've touched my heart, Sophie," he said softly. "I'll never forget you." Sophie's voice, though weak, was steady. "I'll never forget you either," she said. As Keanu prepared to leave, the mood in Sophie's hospital room became bittersweet. The laughter and warmth that had filled the space gave way to a quiet stillness. Sophie's family gathered closer, each moment feeling more precious than the last. Keanu knelt by Sophie's bedside, holding her hand gently. "Sophie," he said softly, "I want you to know something. You've inspired me more than I can ever put into words. Meeting you has been an honor." Sophie looked up at him, her eyes glistening with both joy and sadness. "You've made me so happy," she whispered. "Thank you for coming." Keanu's voice caught for a moment, and he took a deep breath. "I'll always remember you, Sophie. And I want you to remember that you're stronger than you think. No matter what happens, you've left a mark on this world, and on my heart." Emma and James stood nearby, tears streaming down their faces. They had never seen their daughter this at peace before. "Thank you," Emma managed to say. "You've given her something we could never have imagined." Keanu nodded, his expression kind but heavy with emotion. "It's her strength that's given me something," he replied. The time had come to say goodbye. Keanu leaned in close to Sophie, his voice soft and comforting. "I'll see you again one day," he whispered, his words carrying a promise of hope. Sophie smiled faintly, her eyes closing as she whispered back, "I'll wait for you." The room was silent except for the gentle hum of the machines. Keanu stood, his gaze lingering on Sophie for a moment longer before turning to Emma and James. He embraced them both, sharing a quiet moment of solidarity and gratitude. As he stepped out of the room, the hallway outside felt impossibly quiet. Hospital staff, who had gathered nearby, watched him with a mixture of awe and respect. Keanu paused, glancing back towards Sophie's door, his face marked with both sorrow and determination. Walking away wasn't easy, but Keanu knew he had left something valuable behind, a memory of love, hope, and strength that Sophie's family would carry with them forever. The day of Sophie's funeral was both somber and beautiful. Friends, family, and members of the Willow Heights community gathered in the small chapel to celebrate the life of the brave 10-year-old who had touched so many hearts. Sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows, casting a gentle glow over the room, as if Sophie's spirit was shining down on everyone present. At the front of the chapel stood a table adorned with photographs of Sophie, smiling, playing, and clutching the gifts Keanu had given her. Her silver bracelet with the words, "Stay strong," rested among the photos, a poignant reminder of her courage. Keanu Reeves entered quietly, his presence unassuming yet deeply felt. He took a seat near the family, offering a warm nod to Emma and James as they exchanged glances of gratitude. His attendance wasn't announced, but it didn't go unnoticed. For Sophie's family, his presence was a final act of kindness that spoke louder than words. When it was time to speak, Emma rose with trembling hands, clutching a piece of paper. Her voice wavered as she began. "Sophie was more than just our daughter. She was our light, our strength, and our greatest teacher. She taught us what it means to love unconditionally, to fight bravely, and to find joy even in the hardest times." Tears streamed down Emma's face, but she continued, her words filled with both sorrow and gratitude. She had one last wish, and thanks to all of you, and to Keanu, she got to live that dream. In her final days, she was the happiest I've ever seen her. For that, we are eternally grateful. Keanu's head dipped slightly, his expression marked by quiet reverence. As the ceremony concluded, he approached the family, embracing Emma and James in a gesture of solidarity. "She taught me, too," he said softly. "She reminded me what real strength looks like." The room was filled with a profound silence, broken only by the sound of sniffles and the soft rustle of tissues. Sophie's memory lingered in every corner, her bravery and spirit leaving an indelible mark on everyone who had the privilege of knowing her story. After the ceremony, the attendees gathered in a nearby hall, sharing memories of Sophie and reflecting on her extraordinary impact. Among them was Keanu Reeves, who stood quietly for a moment before stepping forward to speak. With his hands folded and his voice steady, Keanu addressed the room. "I didn't know Sophie for long," he began. "But in the short time we shared, she taught me more about strength and bravery than I've learned in a lifetime. Sophie reminded me that heroes don't always wear capes or fight on movie screens. Sometimes they're a 10-year-old girl facing unimaginable challenges with grace and courage." The room fell silent, captivated by his words. Keanu continued, his voice soft but firm. "What Sophie gave to all of us was a reminder to cherish every moment, to love deeply, and to face life with unshakable resolve. She may not be here with us in person, but her spirit will live on, in every act of kindness, in every moment of bravery we choose." Emma and James watched from the side, holding hands tightly as tears streamed down their faces. Keanu glanced toward them, his expression warm and empathetic. "To Sophie's family," he said, "thank you for allowing me to share in her life. It's a gift I'll carry with me forever." Applause broke out across the hall, soft at first but growing louder as the weight of Keanu's words sank in. The room was filled with both grief and gratitude, a shared understanding that Sophie's story had left an indelible mark on everyone present. As the gathering continued, people came forward to share their own memories and reflections. A nurse from Willow Heights Children's Hospital spoke about Sophie's laughter, even on her hardest days. A family friend recalled how Sophie's love for Keanu's movies brought them closer together. Each story painted a picture of a little girl who had lived with purpose and inspired everyone around her. Keanu stayed until the very end, taking time to speak with Sophie's family and the community that had supported her. His presence wasn't just that of a celebrity, it was that of a friend, someone who truly cared. Sophie's story reminds us of life's most powerful truths, that even in our darkest moments, love and kindness can create light. This isn't just a tale about a young girl who loved Keanu Reeves's movies or an actor who took time to make her dream come true. It's a story of courage, compassion, and the extraordinary impact we can have on one another. For Sophie, her meeting with Keanu was more than a dream come true. It was a beacon of hope during her final days. Her joy wasn't just felt by her family but by everyone who shared in her story. She showed us what it means to face life's challenges with grace and strength, teaching us to value the moments we have and to cherish the people around us. Keanu's actions were a profound reminder of how small gestures can make an enormous difference. In a world often divided, his compassion bridged gaps and created a moment of unity. His words, "Heroes don't always wear capes," encapsulates Sophie's legacy, a child who, despite her struggles, inspired countless others to find their own courage. Sophie's family now carries her memory as a source of strength. Her story has touched lives far beyond Willow Heights, spreading a message of hope and resilience. Her laughter, her love for life, and her dream remind us that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward, changing the world in ways we may never fully see. As we reflect on Sophie's legacy, we're reminded that each of us has the power to bring light to others. Whether through a kind word, a helping hand, or simply showing up for someone in need, these actions define the best of humanity. Sophie's bravery and Keanu's kindness show us that we don't have to be famous or extraordinary to make a difference. We just have to care. If this story moved you, please share it. Let Sophie's message of hope inspire others to spread love and compassion in their own lives. And if you'd like to hear more stories about the beauty of the human spirit, subscribe to our channel. Together, we can create a community where kindness shines brightest. Thank you for watching, and remember, even the smallest actions can leave the biggest marks on someone's life.